Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of the Talking Shed podcast. I almost said the Working Class Bowhunter podcast. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. On this one, it's Cody and I. We're upstairs here in the recording studio. You can probably tell from the echo. We really need to invest in some sound wave proof stuff to get that echo down. But I turned up my microphone so that I don't talk as loud, so that hopefully it doesn't echo as loud. So we'll see. But today is Friday, February 23rd. So a week ago at this time, we were completely buried in people at the show. At the farm show, Louisville farm show. I wanted to do more recordings down there than what I did, but I mean, I wish one of these days I want to hire a few years ago we hired a camera crew to come and we shot some videos on products. I'd like to hire a crew to video the experience of the Louisville farm show. Everything from when we sit down here, like brainstorming, what are we going to take? Will it fit in the booth? Will it be the best bang for our buck? Like, is that the product we need to bring? And then will it fit on the trailer? And then getting it down there, getting it unloaded, building the booth, and
the trips, the miles,
and all that. The pre and the post isn't bad. Like getting equipment down there, tearing down and stuff isn't horrible. But what I struggle with so much about that show is I wish I could hit a pause button. It is so fast.
Like, it's so quick. So quick.
We get there in the morning and we'll walk around early and see everything that we want to see, and then boom, the people show up. And on Thursday, which I would call the busiest day, the second day, I didn't speak to anyone on our team for like a long time. Like, I'd turn around and like maybe say something to you real quick, like, dang, there's a lot of people here, and then boom, there's someone. There was people waiting the entire time. And this year, for those of you that were there and that noticed, we had two separate booths, so we were spread a little bit thin on salesmen. We had Dad and Austin manning the upstairs booth. I call it the upstairs, to be clear with everyone. That's the bright big room where all the big boys are, and then we're down in the dungeon around you walk around the tractor pull arena. And
West Wing versus South Wing.
You could say that, but in those buildings you get so turned around.
You have no idea where you're at.
But it's just a fury. A guy will be walking by, he'll kind of slow down and he'll start coming up to what you're looking at, and he's thinking, man, I hope no one comes up to me and talks to me, and I hope no salesman harasses me. And pretty soon my job is to get as many names and hand out as many cards as I can. So, hey sir, is there anything I can help you with? And they kind of freeze up a little bit, like, uh-oh, I'm caught, but I try to really quickly calm the conversation into a super relaxing one, like, hey, anything I can help you with? I'm not, to relay to them that I'm not here to get them to sign up for this, you walk by booths and they're like out in the aisleway trying to hand you a card, like, here, sign up for only
win a free cooler.
For only $10 a month. It's just going to change your life. No, we want to build relationships. We want to get a product that you only buy because it's going to give you an ROI, not because you were pressured, not because we fooled you into making a rash decision. And so we calm the conversation down, and pretty soon, he's telling me about his farm, Kinsey 3600. He's got interplants, he no-tills, he really struggles with getting through that residue. And I'm building in my mind kind of, products that would fit him based on my experience with other customers. And so I spend some serious time with him, give him all my information. I take his, I need to build him a quote maybe. So that took probably 10 minutes, and I turn around and boom, there's someone else at the other end. And and my first guy, he was probably from Southern Indiana. Next guy, he's in Michigan. He's got sand, full conventional, under pivots. I'm like, okay, completely shift gears, and he's telling me about his operation, and then the third guy, and then this guy, and then by the end of the day, I kid you not, there's no way that we didn't sit down and physically have 50 to 70 conversations with customers in a day. And
absolutely.
And we don't stop until 10 minutes after the show's over, because they'll come up over the announcement and say, attention everyone, the show is now over. Please make your way to the exits. But there's still people there because the tractor pulls are starting.
Right.
And so people are heading to the tractor pulls and they'll say, oh, hey, what's that? Them closing wheels. How much are those closing wheels? And it's just and pretty soon I look down, I'm like, shoot, I haven't even talked to my wife yet today.
Yeah.
It's
6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock. Like, shoot, my boys, they've already been to school. They're home from school. They've been home for 3 hours.
Probably already ate dinner.
Yeah. Like, I don't, what day is it? And then as soon as we get back to the hotel, boom, it's like change clothes or shower real quick, and we got to go eat because it's already 6:37. And go to bed, wake up, and we wake up early, and it's just the same blur. And like by the second or third day, I was like telling my wife, I was like, what day is it? Like, how's everything going? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever, but I've talked to hundreds of other people, and it's just a blur. It is a madhouse, and to try to reel it all together. And you'll come home and you've got your book and it says, Steve from Indiana, he needs a quote on this, and it's like, I do not remember talking to Steve from Indiana, and so I would love to be able to capture that fury in a video. It's intense. It is so intense to try to go to that show, and every day we're just trying to provide suggestions to those guys. It's because they're going to come to us with an issue within their operation. Either they need a better closing wheel, or they need to maybe try some row cleaners, or they got a new planter and want to put some fertilizer on it.
Right.
We're trying to solve a problem.
And it's always, well, what if this happens, and what if this happens, and you've got to have a rebuttal for all of that. And so it puts a lot of pressure on you as a salesman, because at the end of the day, you tell this guy something wrong, well, he's going to come back and point fingers at you and say, well, my corn only yielded 170 bushel this year.
Well, I think, just based on experiences that we've had is our best way to steer them in the most educated direction,
Right.
I don't ever promise bushels, or we have the Beck studies hanging up on the closing wheels and stuff, and I think everyone's well aware that nothing's a guarantee,
right?
But yeah, there's we are put in a position to be consultants in a way for their operation, and it's not, and I tell guys this all the time, it's not due to the fact that anyone on our team is a corn warrior,
right,
or can raise 400 bushel corn, or knows how to farm any better, or woke up with a wand in their hand that makes them planter specialists.
Right.
It's the fact that we have been more places, been in more fields, met more people, listened to more speakers than, I would say, 90% of people in the industry. And that's just by pure default of being in this industry for the time that we have, as hard as we have been going at it. You look at every person you've talked to, you're going to learn something. You might say, well, what do you think about this closing wheel? And they'll say, well, I tried it one time and it didn't work. And we put that little bit of information in. And so now we know maybe that one doesn't work so well in sand, or this, or what do you think about this strip till unit? Well, I like it, but it does this and this. And it's like, okay, right there is a testimonial from a user. So we learn from all these data points. Every day we're talking to people on the phone from across the country, and we put all that knowledge into a bundle. And so then when a guy comes to us with a problem that we've seen or heard before, boom, we're on it.
Right.
We've seen this story 10 times. A guy comes to us and wants help managing stalk residue.
Right.
We've seen this story.
Yep.
We've successfully covered this 100 times. This is a cakewalk.
Yep.
Or, I need this and this, and it's like, well, we've done it 10 times successfully. So let's give you this recipe because we know it works. And so that's what's fun about the farm shows, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun to be down there.
Running through all those different scenarios. I mean, I talked to a guy from Colorado.
Yeah.
I talked to guys from Illinois, Alabama, you about name it, all across the country that go there. I mean, there are a lot of foreigners that go there too. Germany, there are a lot of people that come from over across the pond that are there, and you are able to kind of basically just kind of learn on how they operate within their operation. And it still amazes me how different an operation can be from Pennsylvania to Illinois to Colorado to Alabama. It is nuts to Texas. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't even have to be that far. It could be neighbors,
right?
Full conventional, running all green equipment, deep tillage, and the neighbor down the road, he might be running a gleaner with no till equipment and raising just as good yields. And it's every operation's different. And I'll say it seems that how every operation farms today isn't because it's the best way to farm. That's not true.
Right.
There is no cookie cutter one best way to farm.
Right.
I talked to a guy this morning who is going to all 90-foot planters for this next year. And he's going to be running 90-foot tram lines. And, to him, he's probably dreamed of getting to that point for a long time. To others, they might look at that and say, man, that's kind of a nightmare. Like, how are you going to spray? How are you going to side dress? And, but to him, that's his perfect thing today.
Right.
Today. But what I'm saying is the reason why they farm today is because it's a product of how they were taught to farm 30 years ago, how their dad farmed, or how their grandpa farmed. And it's not exactly how they farmed because, they're not using the plows and the discs and the cultimultures. But, I talk to guys all the time and they'll say, well, my dad, he's been no-till now for 30 years and we've been doing a good job making that work. Well, that's why they're doing that. Is just dad started doing it probably because someone influenced him to do it.
Right.
And none of it's wrong. But everyone's just farming the perfect way that they know how to today.
Yeah.
With how they're set up.
Yep, absolutely.
And at the same token, everyone has got a goal in which they want to achieve. Like we need to get to 12-row corn planters, or we need to get to 24-row corn planters. And once they get there, then those goals start to expand. Now we need to work on wider tillage or a bigger tractor.
Right.
And there's no stopping point.
Right.
There's no Super Bowl.
Right.
The Super Bowl is the end all. For that season, you have won. You see a lot of coaches and players retire. Boom, they're done. They achieved what they needed to do. Farming, there is no Super Bowl.
Right.
It's just college playoff every day.
Right.
You're just
battling it out.
You're always winning. But you're never winning big enough.
Right.
And if you do, farming's a game that you're just going to keep getting in, you know. So
yep,
yeah,
it's a good analogy of how to describe it.
It's interesting. The farm show is like we were talking. It's so great to be able to talk to that many people in that short amount of time.
It almost feels like the Super Bowl for us as far as salesmen, because it's like, it's National Farm Machinery Show week. Like, let's go get after it. Like
it's the time of year when you run into some of the oddest situations, or you know, you may have a piece of equipment on your lot, and you're like, man, it's going to take a special person to buy that. And like noon on Thursday, Cody's like, hey, you remember that thing sitting out back? Yeah, I just sold it to a guy in Arkansas. What? You know, it's just like, seriously? And that guy in Arkansas, he came up, he's probably like, I've been looking for that thing for 3 years. It's like, well, I've had it for 7, but
where you been?
You know, but it's that time of year when you are going to walk up to a guy, initiate that conversation, and you have no idea what you're going to open up. No idea.
Nope.
And me, being me, I'm always kind of sniffing around a little bit for some hunting property too. Like, hey, you got any turkeys? And like, you know, if they're from Kentucky, you can bet I'm asking them if they got any turkeys running around.
Yeah.
But of course, everyone's going to say, well, yeah, I do. But I'm going to need them turkeys basically tied up.
Right. Because we got no clue what the heck we're doing.
I couldn't call a turkey on my phone if I had their number. So, but yeah, it's fun, and it's very expensive too. Very expensive. You know, we stay in those hotels for a week, and
heck, your mom and dad are there for 10 days.
Right.
It's like, it's a long time to be there. It's a lot. There's a lot going on,
but you do, you know, you eat different food every day. We do get to go to some pretty cool restaurants. It's a great, you know, we always need just those little tidbits of time to get to escape the business. But you're still working on the business, but you're not working in the business. To get away permanently for a couple days, and it changes the mentality so much. You start looking from the outside in, and that's honestly where we develop a lot of ideas, is just being together as a group away from the business for a period of time. That's a big deal. And you start kicking things around, and you learn how people can operate with or without you being there. But it's a great time.
I mean, we've done that on installs and stuff like that, to where we just, I mean, you're sitting there and you got a 6-hour drive. And that's all we do, is we just talk to each other and kind of pick each other's brains. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but that's a lot of good team bonding between the sales team and stuff like that is always developed there, and it's always a lot of fun to go.
Yeah, Austin came down for the first time. You know, he had never been to that show.
Yep.
If you guys have ever received a UPS box from us in the last, I don't know, 2 to 3 years.
2 years.
It was packaged by Austin. So if you were short anything, you can call him.
Yep. Ask for him.
But so I think that was good for him to experience that show.
Yes.
Elliot went down from the shop.
Yep.
To help you guys set up. I'm sure he learned a lot there. He stayed overnight as well.
Yep.
So got to experience a little bit of that, but it's fun. Like I said, I wish, you know, I could talk for hours about it on this podcast, but it would not portray the wholesome experience that that it really is. It's more than a farm show. It's a big deal. But and we can't forget, did I ever, you know, we packed up there on Sunday. I came home. It snowed Friday night.
Yeah, Friday or Thursday night. Yeah.
It snowed in all of Indiana down into Louisville. And Dad told me Friday morning, of course, hey, you better be leaving early. It's going to snow. And it didn't really matter. And I wasn't going to leave early. I wasn't going to leave the show early. There ain't no way.
Yeah.
I left the show at 3:30, and it was painful to drive out of that driveway. I was like, man, I got 2 hours left to talk to people. But I came home Friday. My goal was to pick up my 3 boys, come back Saturday morning, and they were going to help clean up. They were going to get a little bit of experience in it as well. Saturday's definitely the slower day, and so I thought that'd be a good time. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, it took me 6 hours to get home Friday night on a normal 3.5. And then it took me like 4.5 to get back down there Saturday. Mm-hmm. So I got down there, and as soon as I got there, you left. Mm-hmm. You went home for the week, and it was me and Seth and Mom and Dad and the boys to clean up, and Grandpa. Grandpa brought the semi down, and we got everything loaded, everything. I mean, we had that first booth picked up, in no time. Mm-hmm. No time. When I got there at 8:30, the boys and I, we had the buffet.
Yeah.
The buffet was free for the boys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great. We went in there, and they were super nice to us. Boys, they just thought that was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
We had French toast, and you can about imagine.
Waffles, eggs, bacon.
Yeah. So we did kind of take our good old time at breakfast, because that was a big deal to them. Mm-hmm. And so we get there, and they already had the tender trailer out, and they already had
the spreader out.
Yeah. They were pulling the tender trailer out as I was coming in. So Dad said, go get the old trailer, bring it in. And so, boom, within 10 minutes, I had that old trailer, because I was able to sneak around, like the tie outs.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to sneak around there. I didn't have to go all the way around the loop.
Okay.
They had all that open.
Yeah.
So I go down, get the trailer, come back up, and in 10 minutes, I had that trailer in there. We get all the boxes out, get the flooring put in there, and I got the trailer out. We had that first booth done, completely done, it was by 10 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah. It was the other booth that probably took us a lot longer.
Just wheeling stuff out and kind of the pain.
Yeah, and then we had to wait on some forklifts to get those seaters.
Sure.
So we had everything done. Dad had actually told Seth and I to leave. The only thing left was the 2-seaters. Mm-hmm. And the forklift was telling us it was going to be an hour. Dad's like, why don't you guys leave? And I'm like, no, we'll leave whenever it's done. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, an hour turned into about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We had a forklift in no time. And we're loading that red cedar. And, it didn't have any, of course, it didn't get any wheels put under it.
Right.
And so to load it, I took 2 blocks of wood and put them in the center of that cedar and set it down. And that thing is pretty light. It depends who you ask. I think it's pretty light. And so I said, well, we'll set them blocks down so that way our forklift driver, bless her heart, really good, great driver.
Yeah.
She's super smart. Mm-hmm. She didn't know the first word of English.
Oh.
It was all hand signals. Mm-hmm. And the scary part is she would kind of look at you like she could read your mind. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, is she going to pull ahead? Is she going to, we couldn't communicate really well. So it was kind of nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Like if I start yelling no, what's she going to do?
Right.
Is she going to hit the pedal? So we were doing hand signals, and she was really good. But we get it loaded, and so now Dad's like, well, we got to pull them blocks out of there. And I said, okay. And so I lifted up the cedar to get the first block. I think I just pushed it over the cedar up, and he reached in from the front and grabbed that block. Mm-hmm. The second block was in the back, and he goes, hold on, let me climb up there and I'll get that, because I had to lift up the cedar to get this one. And I lifted up the cedar, and Dad leaned in there and reached under there. Granted, this is the extreme last thing to load. the last. Like, we get this seater on, we get it strapped down, we're home in a record time.
Right.
I mean, especially for having 2 booths, it was record time. And so Dad leaned up under there, and what I think he did is he set his left hand down to rest, to like carry his body as he reached up in there with his right hand to grab the block. And I lifted that seater up because, again, it wasn't very heavy. And he reached in there, he grabbed the block, and he pulls it out, and I could see that his hand had cleared, and he said, okay. And so I dropped the seater. And I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't just kind of set it down, I dropped it. And I dropped that seater, and Dad just starts hollering and yelling. And I'm like, what the heck? I first thought he hit his head, because when I kind of let the seater down, the fan came pretty close to his head. I thought I dropped it on his head, and I was like, oh, he shouldn't have had his head there. and here I kind of look down, he's not moving, like he's not getting away. Well, here his hand stuck under the seater. I'm like, oh shoot. Well, then I lift up the seater, and I think I made it worse because I lifted up the seater on my end. And it put more of the weight down on his head. And he's yelling, and I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? Because I was on the wrong side. I was on the opposite side.
Right.
Finally, I got kind of wiggled around enough to a point to where I got it up off of his hand, and luckily he had gloves on. And it would have hurt equally as bad, but I think there would have been a lot more blood if he didn't have his gloves on. And so he's sitting there. I mean, he's in pain. I mean, I smoked his finger, and any other part of your body, it wouldn't have been bad, but there's so many feelers in your fingers, and it's even more painful on your fingers. And he was in extreme pain. And so at that point, when you're there with someone who's in that kind of pain, there's really nothing you can't do anything. Nothing. As long as I asked him, was it bleeding? I said, is it bleeding? Because if it was bleeding a lot, we would have to take care of that right away. It was just barely bleeding. And so I'm like, well, we can get some ice and stuff, but there's really not much we can do. I mean, it's going to thump. That's just all there is to it. And so, I mean, I strapped down the seaters, and Grandpa he needed some water because I think he was about to pass out. He's I think I'm like him in the fact that injuries or blood or cuts, I can lose it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so he says, get me something to drink. I'm like, oh boy, I know what that means. He's going to pass out here on us. And then we'll really and what even made it better or worse,
depending on who you ask,
the forklift driver saw the whole thing. And so she's trying to convey to us that she feels sorry for him, and she ended up just kind of slipping away, like, I'm gonna get out of here. But so we got him some ice and stuff, got him all taken care of, and so everything was going just too perfect. And then that had to happen. So he ended up going to the ER when we got home, and
they said none of his fingers were broke.
Yeah.
So that's good. His hand wasn't broke. It's black and blue though. It's good in black and blue. Yeah. So he's going to be on a beach in Aruba with a black hand.
Yeah. So I was kind of surprised that nothing was broke, but it is what it is. So that's how quick and it was so dumb. It was so dumb on everyone's part how how it happened. And it always is. It's just so dumb. You're doing the dumbest stuff, and it just But other than that, it packing up went really well. It was great. But yeah, we got home, and let's talk about, we've talked enough about the farm show. Why don't we talk a little bit about what we talked about there? What were guys, because this week I've talked to so many guys who maybe were or weren't there. Hey, how was the farm show? I heard there was a big crowd. Did you sell anything? What'd you sell? What was hot? For me, and I don't know how we'll ever figure this out, but we said this after the second day. We are going to sell more out of this year's Louisville Farm Show.
Yep.
Than what we did last year. Explain that to me.
The amount of people that we talked to in the first 2 days and the quality of the people that we talked to as far as caliber of customer was extremely by far superior than the last 2 years that we've been there, by far. I've only been going there, so this would have been my third year at Louisville, and it was, I had never seen it like that. And you're like, yeah, this is like the glory days, like how it used to be. Like there would be people waiting in line for you, this and that. But a lot of what we talked about, obviously we had a spreader in our booth. So that was a very, very big topic of what we talked about throughout the week. Realistically, just fertilizer placement in general. We had the planting unit, or the planter tank fertilizer unit in the booth as well. So we did a lot of totally tubulars and fertilizer placement on the planter. And then also the triple threat with that. So we had our new True Trail dual parallel linkage colder.
Yep.
In the booth there as well, along with the triple threat. And I tell you what, I've talked to more and more guys here that have been doing this whole micro deal with the triple threat, doing 2 products on their side dress application.
Yes.
I think a lot of agronomists are really pushing pretty hard for that. From what I've been hearing is that evidently those micros don't travel far enough like the nitrogen does.
Yeah.
And so you want to get that placed as close as you can to the stalk. And it doesn't, from what I understand, it doesn't really do anything as far as burn, and you don't have to put a lot on. I think anywhere from like 5 to 10 gallons per acre is pretty realistic from what I've been hearing. But
yeah, there's, we've sold the triple threats for a long time, mainly as a way to divide up your nitrogen placement. But now we are getting a big flush of guys that are using it for a dual product. Yeah. And they're setting up their side dress applicators for dual product. And I think that's pretty cool, to be able to, because all the time we're going to hone in more and more on, mixing products and what products to place where. And that triple threat is a great way to do that. I really think that what we saw at Louisville was guys wanting to focus back in again on ROI.
Yes.
You look at what was hot, the closing wheels, the row cleaners, everything you just rattled off. In years past, if they had a planter and it needed 2 or 3 things done to it, let's say it needed new closing wheels, it didn't have top of the line row cleaners, and they were like, you know what? Now's the time. We had a good year. We're just going to trade off this planter. I'm not going to go buy attachments for it because I don't think that chassis and those row units are good enough for what I want to put on it.
Right. So
let's just go brand new. We've got the money.
Yep.
And let's just trade. And so they did. And so they got brand new planters and it got decked out with this and this and this. Well, now today, there's guys saying, okay, here we go. We're coming up to plant season. Let's try it. Let's get on this row cleaner program because what it can do is we can cut back our seeding rate. We can maximize soybean emergence. We can maybe reduce tillage passes. The list goes on. And so they called up John Deere and said, hey, get me a trade price on my 7200 to go to a 1775. I'm not going to plant high speed, but I want the 1775. And in 5 years, if my boy wants to take over, he can go high speed. Well, they get that trade difference and realize that John Deere doesn't think that their planter is worth as much as what it was 2 years ago when they bought it.
Right.
They're like, whoa, we're not trading today, buddy. Not today. But they still want to do something.
Right.
And that's where we come in. That's where we come in, and we can take that planter and get it up to snuff to placing seeds and maximizing emergence, much like a brand new planter would today. That is our job.
Right.
And that's what we saw this year at Louisville. Last year, guys were up in the green red booths talking about trading their planters, getting that new 2150, getting the new 75. This year, there was less of that.
Yep.
And there was more of, let's go get some products that we can put a serious pencil to. And that's what we saw, period.
Yep.
I mean, we were just talking off air before the podcast. In the last 2 months, probably approaching 300 rows of row cleaners.
Oh, easily.
That we've sold.
Easily.
You know, that's a big sign.
Yep.
That tells me everything I need to know.
On top of that, too, you know, disc openers have been pretty in the heat here recently as well. So, you know, there were a lot of guys that would just be like, oh, well, it needs disc openers and then it needs new closing wheels. And like you said, they just go trade it off and get a new planter, and they don't have to mess around with changing all that stuff. So,
right. So,
like you said, ROI was definitely a big push this year.
Yeah. So, we've always focused on ROI. I mean, we started this business in 2010 and corn wasn't $6 then.
Right.
It wasn't until 2020. So we were doing it for 10 years on focusing on products with Jeff Worley.
Yep.
On nutrient placement and planter attachments. Just focusing on making what you have better and literal profitability. And that's what we're going to keep seeing. And honestly, I think that's where we thrive. You know, the past couple of years, it's been, well, if you can build it and put it on your lot, you're good. It's going to find a new home.
Yep.
Now we're going to have to show guys the knowledge and experience that we have is going to carry us. That's what I'm so excited about is, this is, as they say, when you find out who's been swimming without their pants on. And so I'm excited for that because,
well, I ain't going to get in the pool with you.
Yeah. Well, I've had my pants on.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So, but we, that right there, everything I just said is my opinion on what we saw at the farm show.
Yeah.
And how we will sell more out of that show this year than what we did last year.
Which I think we're already pretty close.
Yeah. We got a couple larger deals that need to fall here yet to really put a cap on that.
Right.
But yeah, and I'll tell you, two big things that influenced us, or that were big deals for us, is number one, J&M brought a liquid applicator down to the show. This was the first year that J&M had an applicator down there, and of course that's big for us.
Yeah.
And we got a lead out of that. J&M sent a guy down to us.
Yep.
And hopefully we can connect on one.
Yeah.
You know, just yesterday I had some guys here from Tiffin, Ohio.
Okay.
And he goes, geez, I never even knew J&M made an applicator. You know,
from Tiffin.
From Tiffin.
Wow.
You get that a lot, really. You know, they're known for...
They're up in Firth Country, though.
True. But overall, they're known for grain carts.
Sure.
And so some people are surprised when they see that. But,
yeah.
But number two, I'll tell you the second big thing. Salford is killing it at farm shows in general. I know you didn't get to witness the panel stuff that we did with like Ivers and Dave.
Right. There's
so much to build off of on those. Like Tara there, she does a phenomenal job. We did a panel where Ivers Farms, myself, and Dave got up in front of everyone, or I say in front of everyone. We just sat in chairs with a backdrop behind us, and we had microphones, and there were speakers, and this is right in the middle of the show. So people are walking by looking at us like, what are these guys doing? And so Tara starts talking, and she's asking us questions like, hey, how do you see cover crops benefiting people, period? And so we would go down the line. Well, with our cedars, we're seeing a lot of guys build waterways or, seed wheat or you name it. And then, so they had a territory reps experience, a dealer's experience, and then Ivers who own one, and they're big farmers.
Right.
So as we would, for the first 10 minutes, there really wasn't anyone that would stop.
Right.
But you get about 15 minutes into it, and there were times where there were probably 30 people standing there,
really
listening and watching. And I really wish we would have drug it out for like an hour.
Got guys in the background shouting at you, telling you don't know what you're doing.
We did have
don't know what you're talking about.
We did have a few, not protesters. What do they call that? Hecklers.
Yeah, hecklers.
We did have a few hecklers.
Yeah.
No one was throwing food or anything, but we did have a couple hecklers. Yeah, one in general that I know pretty well. Yeah. So, but as soon as we were, I say build off of it because you never know how that stuff's going to go.
Right.
And that's why I told Tara, I said, it's never going to fail.
Right.
It's always going to be a success, but we know now how to improve it.
Right.
And you only know how to improve it by doing it.
Right.
But I think next time we'll drag it out a little bit because just about the time we would get 30 people there, we were kind of getting ready to close up. Whereas if we could, I think you might as well just factor in the first 15 minutes of being kind of a wash.
There's basically nothing.
There's really not going to be a lot of people listening.
Right.
Now, they did record the whole thing, and so it's available on YouTube and stuff. But as far as people interacting at the show, and then by the time, there'd be 30 people there, and they were wanting to ask questions and stuff, and it was a really, really good deal. That was so fun. That was so fun. I would do that 10 times again in a heartbeat. But not only that, they then took it a step further, and they have a little Salford after show party for like Salford employees, Salford dealers, some influencers, and then they invited some Salford owners.
Yeah,
there was several Salford owners there as well, farmers who run the equipment. So we got to spend an evening with all of those people. They supplied the food, and it was great. But not only that, but they brought down a lot of people from the company. We met so many people that we deal with on a daily basis that we never get to see. Some of them people that you're like, man, he's bailed me out of so many problems in my life, and I finally get to meet him. And so it was so fun. They're doing a phenomenal job at that. And so those two things, not only do we have our own booth at the farm show, but we have our manufacturers that we rep for, showcasing us in a way as well. And so that's a big deal. That's a big deal to us. So yeah, pretty much sums up the gist of the farm show.
Yeah.
Did you meet anyone at the farm show or have any crazy stories or anything odd?
Well, there's this guy out in Illinois that is a bit of an influencer. I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name's Tony Reed.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yep. So
I never really got to talk to you about this.
So we stayed at the golf house.
For those that don't know Tony Reed,
yeah,
or that doesn't hit him real hard, just
Growing
brief.
Corn 2020. He's basically an influencer, and he basically lets you know how it is in a vulgar way.
He does some hilarious videos.
It is very funny on some of the stuff that he does. He talks about it. I watched a video of his right before the farm show, and he was saying that he was coming to the Louisville farm show, and I'm like, okay, all right, well. And he goes, yeah, well, he drove this like 1984 Buick. I don't even know what it was. Like it was an old vehicle, and he's like, yep, I'm gonna bring the title, and if she breaks down on my way there, I'm just gonna sign the title and leave it sit there, and whoever wants to come grab it, they can come grab it. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And well, I'm like just getting to the hotel, and I'm going upstairs, And I'm sitting in the elevator, and all of a sudden, Tony Reed walks right in front of my elevator, and I'm like, and everybody else in the elevator is like, well, that was frickin' Tony Reed. And I go, yeah, it was. And so we go upstairs, and later on that night, we're sitting at the bar there in the hotel, and sure enough, right there he is. And I go up and say hi to him, and I asked him if he made it here in the Buick, and he goes, oh, hell yeah. He goes, oh, hell yeah, I did. And he goes, yep, I checked the dipstick and made sure that she had enough oil. She didn't. I threw a quart of Lucas in it, and here I am. So I just talked to him very briefly, but he's about what you could imagine off of what his videos are. I mean, he is the exact same guy. I mean, he had a pair of jeans on that had, I mean, it looked like he just left the farm.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those guys that he's super down to earth, and he's a cool cat. He's pretty funny. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. It was neat to meet him, and it was like he was telling me, he goes, you wouldn't freaking believe how many old guys come up that see my video. He goes, I get more old guys that come up to me and say, he goes, and I'm talking like 60 to like 80-year-old guys that come up to me, and they're like, hey, I like your stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, I get more of that than what I do kids coming up to me and saying that they like my stuff.
Well, he's real.
Oh, yeah.
He probably offends too many kids,
Probably.
Younger people, you know. But
They're
he's
too
real.
soft.
Right. He talks about it the way it is. It's so funny. There's no hiding nothing there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's hilarious. But I didn't meet anyone like that. And honestly, nothing. I know I asked the question, but I don't know that anything jumps out at me. I met saw a lot of people that I already knew, and
I love the guys that you go to Louisville and you've seen them every year, and they talk to you every year at Louisville, and that's the only time you see them.
Yep,
those are some of my favorite people.
Yeah, I had a guy. I had this happen a few times. They'd kind of walk by the booth, look up, kind of look down, slow down. You'd see their mind just turning. And they'd look up at me and they'd say, Adam? Yeah. And I get this real frightened feeling like, shoot, am I supposed to know this guy? Like, gosh dang it. I'm going to feel really bad if I don't know this guy. You know how many times that happened last week? Like, guys, you remember me? Oh, gosh dang it. I don't. I'm sorry. Yeah. You know? And they'd say, Adam? Yeah. Oh, I watch your YouTube videos. Yep. And instantly it's a huge relief because I'm like, okay, good. I don't remember you, and I don't have to now. Like,
I've never met you before.
Yes, perfect. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And I had one guy, he's like, he was like, yeah, I really like your videos. And he said, actually, I bought a Salford tool because of your videos. And I was like, man, that right there, that made the show. Like, he's like, I didn't buy it from you. I know I'm pretty far away, but I bought a Salford tool because of your videos. I'm like, wow, that's sweet.
Oh yeah, like, for sure.
And I hope more and more of that happens all the time, but you don't always hear about it,
right?
You know, and so yeah, I had a lot of guys comment on either this podcast or the YouTube videos and stuff. So
yeah, I had quite a few guys come up and talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you for all the listens. We try to do our best. So
we're approaching 10,000 total listens. So I don't know if we'll get there on this one or not, but
we'll see.
Yeah,
it's just us, so they probably don't. You know.
Oh, these are good.
Well, actually, these are some of the really good ones that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, this will probably be a record one because we haven't even talked about coyote hunting yet. We get into that and they probably scroll like, geez, here we go again.
Oh, my God.
We're going to talk more about Cody. They're like, just get Cody a new scope, for gosh sakes. He missed again. Is this bore crooked?
Maybe we'll get... This is bore crooked.
What's going on here?
What are you talking about? I haven't missed here in a while.
How many times did you miss the last time we went hunting?
None, because I didn't shoot.
No, the last time. The last time we shot, you ding dong.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, because it was like 5.
Yeah,
I
3
know.
of those shots were also over 300 yards.
One of them was within 70.
Yeah, but I got him on the second shot, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I did.
No, not the loner at the hayfield.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one. See, here we go. We're starting to forget there's so many.
Okay.
I won't talk about it. We'll stop talking about the coyote misses.
Whatever.
All right, I'll drop it.
We haven't even got to talk about that extravaganza yet.
Yeah, I think we did.
Did we? I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to talk about it sometime. We're getting to the end here. My phone is blowing up.
Jeez, it's 11 o'clock already.
And it's 11 o'clock. But
yep.
This has been fun. We've been getting a lot of projects coming through. Right now, we're getting to the point.
Bunch of tender trailers.
Yeah, tender trailers have been good. The semi-tender trailers.
Yes.
We need to, do more videos on those tender trailers. But what we're seeing is, a lot of guys just want to become more efficient with that sprayer pass, and we've been able to, hone in on that market, and it kind of plays right into hand with what we do with planter fertilizer,
right,
and plumbing and stuff. And so Brent's in there right now welding up a tote rack. So. Second tote rack. Yep. It's been good.
So, rolling the applicators through.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, this is the time of year when you start to kind of look at the calendar a little bit. You're like, okay, it's March 1, basically. Okay, we got this, and this to do yet. This and this, and then this and this.
That little stack that you thought you had just keeps getting a little bit bigger every day.
It keeps getting bigger, and we get closer and closer to that April 15th day every day. So this is that time of year where you're like, man, we're going to need a little bit of magic to happen. Sun's shining right now. It's going to be 60 degrees a few times in the next 10 days. So we'll see what we get into. We'll get it done. But that's all we've got for today. That was, we had a lot of stuff we wanted to talk about, really, but
we really haven't had a good opportunity to really sit down and talk about a lot of this stuff, though, either.
Yeah.
So, just a lot going on here in the last 5 days. Just catching up and everything.
Yep.
So
that was really good. So I've got some pigs that are hopefully going to farrow here soon. So maybe
hopefully today.
Maybe we'll do a podcast talking about the pigs.
Yeah.
I'm a first-time pig farrower.
Oh.
So this could go pretty good. It could go pretty bad.
Find out.
There's probably some guys out there that farrow 50 hogs a day laughing at me, but
probably.
Got to start somewhere.
If you ain't ever been there, you ain't going to have success.
Yep. So we'll see. The boys like messing around with some pigs, and so we've got some Berkshires, and we'll see what we get into. But
yeah, they taste pretty good too.
They do, and that's really our goal, is just to kind of raise some Berkshires and sell them as feeder pigs, and the boys like to screw around with them at the same time. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
So, well, we're going to get off of here. We enjoy you guys telling us that you listen, and we enjoy doing the podcast. So we will talk to you on the next one.
Yep. Thanks, guys.